set my mind, my soul, my spirit. I believe in God our Father. I believe in Christ the Lord. I believe in the Holy Spirit. Our God is 3 in 1. I believe in the Saints' Communion and in His holy church. Welcome to the other student ministry podcast. Man, sorry, that song was stuck in my head. We just heard it.
Yeah,
like up in service right now.
In the morning.
Yeah, it's awesome. We busted out 2 episodes. So if you go back and listen to last week's episode, we were freezing, still freezing. I'm so cold, and we're hanging out in our office, and we're just talking about some student ministry things. So if you're here and you're listening, my name is Justin Knowles. I'm the student ministries pastor over at Christ Church of the Valley in San Dimas, California, and I'm here with my good friend Matthew Ferrer.
Yo, everybody.
Yo, who's our worship leader. Family pastor, family ministries, worship pastor.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, something like that.
Because my title now is like family pastor students.
Yeah. Mine is family pastor of worship.
There you go. Yeah. And so we're just hanging out. We're talking. Today we're talking about hacks on starting small, but like aiming big. How do you begin that? Like how do you obviously big vision, where we're going, but also starting small and like the steps necessary in order to do that within service, small groups, events. Just talking about some of the things that we've walked through and have been challenged through ourselves in hopes that it could help other people. I don't know. So, but before we do, Matthew, we got to let people know what's up.
Yes. So we want to get to know you. We also want to learn from you as well. This whole thing is about starting conversations and learning from those conversations so that we might be better at what we do. And so there's a few ways that we can get a hold of one another. The first of which, is using the hashtag YMHacks on Twitter. There's 140 characters or less that you can use in a single tweet. And if you don't use any emojis, you should have enough. Well, actually, that could be really fun, is sending in like questions via emoji.
Yeah. Give us some hacks via emojis.
That would be tight.
Do that.
We can have a whole thing where we try to decipher them. There we go. That could be even like a game
That's
idea.
A great game.
There you go.
Maybe we'll give away some stuff.
Dang. I'm into it.
Yeah,
let's do that. So use the hashtag YMHacks on Twitter and add to the conversation, be it for this conversation and this topic or for previous conversations and previous topics. We're here to learn, and that's one of the ways we can do so. The second way we can learn together is by having you write into our email. And the email is theotherstudentministrypodcast@gmail.com. Once again, that's theotherstudentministrypodcast@gmail.com. We actually do read those questions and we try to answer them. Excuse me. I just had a huge Diet Coke, and so it's all bubbles right now. My bad.
Just burps on in this place.
Yeah. So we actually do read those emails, and we portion out moments of the podcast to answer those questions. And
7 minutes to be exact.
7 minutes. And we by no means have the answers. And like, it's really just starting the conversation and kind of starting like the ball rolling on those things. Yeah. And we hope that those would be ongoing conversations. And so please join in with that. And then finally, hit that subscribe button.
Yeah, please.
Subscribe.
If you are not subscribed.
Subscribe.
Do that.
Subscribe.
Do that. And leave a review, please. There's some, other student ministry podcasts that I want to gain ground on, I know most of them. And so I want to be able to like the people who run them. So I want to be able to say like, I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you. No, it's just good. If you like it, share it, leave a review, give us 5 stars or 1 star if you really think it deserves it. That's fine.
Yeah.
But we're excited because we're kind of hitting on something a little bit different. And to be honest with you, I don't know if like maybe other podcasts have talked about this specifically, but I try to want to be as practical. Like the whole purpose of this is like to be super practical. Of like, okay, how do you have a big vision, right? Like Matt, you know me. I think big, and I go like, okay, how though, right? Mm-hmm. Like that's like kind of like the how do we do this, and we throw ideas out and we're like, yes, let's do that, let's land on it, and then trying to figure out, okay, what's the next step and process and through those things. And I think it's okay to think big in student ministry, whether how big your ministry is. If you have 10 kids or if you have 10,000 kids, having a big ministry or a big vision for your ministry is nothing to be ashamed about. And you want to see growth, obviously, because growth equals more kids coming to know who Jesus is and to be in community and do all those things. So like, how do you have a big vision, but then how do you actually execute that vision? I think, Matt, our team, I can only speak for our team.
Yeah.
I don't know what other people are doing, but I think our team is doing pretty dang good at like having a big vision and like actually pulling off what we want to do.
Yeah.
And so I want to talk to us talk through like what we both have seen in our ministry of what we've been also working towards.
Yeah.
And like actually taking steps to how we got to that thing. Because I'm not going to lie, I'm a pretty ambitious guy. I'm involved in things. I want to get things done, and I love taking on the challenge of like pushing in like our ministry or organization people to the next level. It really does. Like, it's one of my favorite things, and it's been, I've been in this position now for 3 years, which is crazy. Mm-hmm. And to be able to like walk through that, we've taken some pretty big steps toward like in our leadership and ministry and like excitement. But also at the same time, like I'm a dreamer and I want more and I want bigger things and better things. And as leaders too, right? You see, if you're the leader, you should be able to see how things should be done. But the harder part is like actually taking the necessary steps to actually see what you want to see.
Yeah.
Right. And so, like, I would love just to talk through like, how do you think big but start small?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
let's kind of like let's chat a little bit about
Sweet.
that.
Yeah, I love that.
So like, Matt, for you, let's just take it back to like 3 years ago. For you, when I came in and as we were kind of reevaluating our ministry, like what were some of the things that you were like, okay, here's what we need to do, revamp, kind of put you in the spot here.
Yeah,
so,
totally.
Like just kind of like reminiscing, back in the way, if you could remember 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Newly married,
like, chime,
no kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like all that kind of stuff. Like kind of go back into like, okay, what can we, what was our vision? What do we want to see? And then how do you think we're doing that on that so far?
Yeah. So I think the vision has somewhat stayed the same in the sense that it lines up with what we want church-wide. So we want to see a fully devoted follower of Jesus in every home in the valley, in the San Gabriel Valley and beyond. San Gabriel Valley is like our geographical context. It might be different for wherever you are, if you're on some like the Great Plain Basin or something like that, or
where the antelopes play.
Yeah. But within our student ministries, that's a fully devoted follower of Jesus on every campus in our like reach, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so, looking back 3 years ago, so with that vision being the same, I would say that we were a little bit like someone who decided they wanted to be an Olympian. And really desperately wanted to go to the Olympic trials and get in the pool and win and that type of thing. But we were still like down to eat Cheetos and still down to like have a large pizza.
Yeah.
And, let's skip training today because it's not that important because we'll get it to the next time. So I would say that like the dream and the hope was still there and the vision was maybe you would say clouded maybe. Mm-hmm. But the disciplines of these are the things that we do, weren't really there, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And those were for like various reasons. I mean, they weren't malicious by any means. There was just no strong leadership in place and nothing that was like driving us forward and keeping us there. And so, it was a lot of things that pulled us in opposite directions rather than like, no, we are going forward doing these things.
Yeah. And I feel like too, like there's probably a lot of ministries out there too, who probably maybe feel like in that, cycle of, I don't feel like I'm moving forward.
Yeah.
What's happening? I want this, but I don't know the steps necessary to take this, you know, I can kind of move there and whatnot. So like someone in that role, what would you say, like, how can I get out of that? Like what's like a hack, as you looked at our team, like what made us do that?
Yeah. I would say it's identifying like the key hinge points to whatever your vision is and going after them. So for us, like to execute that vision, obviously we want to invite students to Wednesday night, right? So like we want We want butts in the seats. We want students to invite their friends, and ultimately, we want them to hear the word of God and have an encounter with Jesus on a Wednesday night. That's our context.
Yeah.
And so we do that by 3 different ways. We have an element of fun on a Wednesday night. We have a corporate worship experience of some sort on a Wednesday night, and then we have biblical teaching. And so those are the 3 things. So we say no to everything else if it doesn't fall on those things. And granted, those are pretty like broad strokes.
Right.
But if it doesn't line up with what happens in those 3 like channels, we don't do it.
Yeah.
We don't do it. And that's not always been the case. And so that's hack number 1 is identifying, it's kind of like building like an IKEA thing, like you have to like go step by step to like go from, I just have a pile of wood and these like little like screws, and then it's going to be a table at some point. How are you getting to that table? Like you're building the leg, and then you're building the like tabletop, and then you're assembling the leg to the table, but don't skip anything and be very like clear. Like I am going to do this. We're going to say no to, I don't know, like the laser tag event that happens every week, that type of thing. Cause we're going to do one big laser tag event quarterly, because that's going to be really fun for students. And we're not going to kill our leaders trying to pull this thing off every single week. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. And if you want to go like, what Matt said, like walking through like the biblical teaching, corporate worship, and element of fun, like we went into super detail like 2 episodes ago. Hacks on service programming. I highly recommend that you go into that. Because I would agree to the same thing. Like you have to be like, it's a great to have, because we both know people too who are like have big visions but like have no idea like how to go. But then we have people who don't know how to think big. Yeah. And like they're just kind of do and kind of just chugging along and not really have a vision. Really, they're just kind of existing and letting things happen, which both could be bad in the equal way. So like for us, when I look at our our ministry, like for us, what is, we talked about our ultimate goal is like we want to reach as many students as possible so that they come to know Jesus. Like, I look back 3 years ago and I kind of go, okay, if I'm walking into a new ministry, we have a big vision where we're going. If that's our vision, what are we going to do? Like I literally remember like split up the years, right? Like year 1, I said, we're going to focus on our program. Yeah. Unapologetically, parents like, well, what about small groups? We're like, no,
we're not there yet.
We're not there yet. We're going to make our program great. I want our Wednesday night program to be the best program in our area, like bar none, to where students want to be there and they want to invite their friends, right? So we did a whole year tweaking, adjusting, and kind of working through like, okay, that worked, that didn't. This type of game worked, this didn't. These songs worked, this didn't. Yeah. And like splitting junior high and high school for teaching. Like we tried all these different things until we found like what our students just loved, and like we're like, all right, I think we found it. And it took a year.
Yeah, which is as scary as it sounds. Yeah. Like you're like, oh my gosh, a whole year? Like
of nothing
that's
else.
All of my weeks that I'm just doing this, that I'm just focusing on this one thing. And but it's so worth it.
Because if you're thinking big, obviously I want a full-blown, fully operating ministry with service, small groups, and serving. But like, you're not going to hit all of those effectively in year 1. Yeah. Or the first 6 months. Like you have to play the long game, like for the big vision. And so I think that's like a majority of what people go through is like, it's they want like instant results. And like, that's the thing, like I always hear this too, like Jesus always talked in like agricultural stuff, like none of that stuff grows instantly, like there's always a time that like you have to wait for the harvest to come, and then it comes. So I think it's the same thing with ministry. Like it's okay to think big, but just have realistic expectations. Like there was a guy like that I saw or was like chatting with or whatever. And he was like, 2 months in, he's like, I'm going to do all these things and have these numbers. And I'm like, okay, bro, like that's awesome. But like you're 2 months in and you want all this by Christmas. It's probably, you're going to have a big old reality check here in a little bit, like it's the thing. So coming into it, knowing, so like year 1 for us, like if you're thinking big vision, right? Fully devoted follower of a student on every campus, and in the home, like with our church, like, and we want to reach students, like, man, we need a place where they actually want to come to you first. So having a year specifically to program is huge, and spending the long term on that. And then year 2 was we have a program, and once the program's dialed in, launch small groups. And so like we launched small groups, and in the last episode, if you go back and listen to that, talked about like what we're doing, what failed, what didn't work, and what we're trying this year and what we are pretty stoked about. And so like we're going to focus on that and retweak. Year 3 is serving. So that was last year for us. And that was huge.
Yeah.
Like we have like over 100 students serving in kids ministry, and it's changed their ministry. And so like we did a huge push on that and like focused on that and told stories about that. And then now like year 4 is like tweaking. And so like we're going back and working on small groups again and kind of making this better. And so this is like a vision that we casted almost 3 years ago that it's just now coming to fruition.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so that's kind of like where we're going,
Yeah.
you know, with all that stuff. So you got to start like small. You got to start small in order to like have like actual like legitimate steps.
Yeah. So I'm curious with that then. What are we've talked about our love of like tools and things that help us to go forward. I think you're an Evernote guy and a Wunderlist guy. I think I'm a piece of paper and a pencil guy. You know what I mean? But there are tools out there that can help us get forward. And something that we've started to use here within our context is a service called 15.5.
Yeah.
Can you kind of explain a little bit of how we use 15.5 to advance our goals and kind of keep, it kind of goes into that scoreboard idea. Like
totally.
Yeah.
15.5s is, I actually really do like them. A lot of people on our staff are like, man, it's just something I have to fill out again. But at the same time though, like it just, our entire church uses it. It helps enhance communication from like the bottom up, really. Yeah. And so what it is, basically you could you could customize all the questions that get sent out to the people that report to you. And then you answer them. So some of ours, like actually just let me even like pull it up since we're talking about it, where is it? So you could go through, you could customize it, and you could walk it. When you submit it, it goes to your direct report. And it's the cool thing about it is that they could have a good snapshot of your week, what you're working on, what you're doing. And then if there's anything that's like a big deal, is that it could be passed up to like the higher ups, so like executive team or whatever. So everyone can have a shot and have like feel like their voice is being heard within like the church. And so like let me walk you through some of ours. Is like, how are you feeling? What are 1 or 2 things you could do in the next week to fulfill your OKR, which we'll talk about in a little bit. OKRs, the objective and key results. What are you praising God for this week? What's going well? What challenges are you facing? What solutions are you already implementing? How can I help? How can I pray for you, your family, your ministry? God is writing a story in our church. It's our job to tell it. Any stories happening within your ministry that we should know? Next time we meet, what are some things that we need to talk about? What volunteer have you encouraged or hung out with this week? What did you do? And how are you feeling in the season? And the cool part about it, you could give like this thing called high fives where you could encourage everyone. And the cool thing about it, only your direct report could see it. But if you give like a high five, you can encourage someone else in the church and staff or whatever, and everyone can see it.
Yeah.
So it's just awesome. A way to organize like communication. And so like our whole team fills it out. And it comes to me, except for yours. It goes to Rory. And then like it kind of just enhances communication and like helps you, like we have our goals, which we'll talk about. Like it helps you like be focused on like a weekly step towards the big vision of the goal of like, what did you do this week to help you move towards the goal that you have. Yeah. Right. So like, that's like one of our tools. And part of that, you heard it, is like the OKRs. Yeah. What is it? What's the sound you make? Objectives and key results. Yeah. The sound is directly from the Kardashians. Shout out to anybody who recognized that. Not my favorite thing, but it's always on in my house for some reason. So, I think it's Chloe. She goes, yeah. So that's our OKRs. Yeah. I'm not going to lie to you. My wife loves the show. Yeah. And mine too. I know way more about the Kardashians than I ever want to. Yeah. And for real. So, and I've actually go to a convention for it. Exactly. Like I've actually learned to like Kanye. Dude. He's legit. He is legit. Like and it also makes me think, side note, like he's a freaking genius. He is brilliant. Dude, the whole like Kanye is a persona. Like he's not that guy. Like he's just like, it's just like, he's got to be Kanye. You know what I mean? Like Stephen Colbert. Yeah. He's not Stephen Colbert. Yeah. He's not like that in real life. It's just the character that he plays. Yeah. Kanye is just playing a character of himself. Because it drives sales. Yeah. And it's awesome. It's genius. Anyways, we could go on that. Yeah. we could go on a tail end on
Endorse
that.
us.
Kanye, give me some Yeezys, because I can't afford them because I'm a student pastor. Anyways, yeah, it's always on at our house. But OKRs, back to that. Is objectives and key results, and our church has them as a whole.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, they're new.
Yeah,
I can't remember them off the top of my head.
We just reset them. I know one of them is one of them has to do with like a volunteer culture. So it's hitting a certain amount of volunteers.
Like percentage serving. Percentage of our people serving somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do not.
I know there's an attendance one too.
Oh, sweet. Yeah.
I know that. And so we're kind of like modeling our ministry off the same type of thing. So I could list you at least our OKRs of like, hey, for this year, here's where we're going. Mm-hmm. And this is the goal that we want to hit. Number one is that we want to have 60 adult leaders on Wednesday nights, mm-hmm. Serving either as a growth group leader or service leader. And the heart behind that is we believe that program will get students to come. Relationships will make them stick, and so the more leaders that we have, more caring adults pouring into the lives of teenagers, it will make our place kind of sticky. Yeah. And so try to get our ratio down from like, I don't even know what the ratio is, but like more adults interacting with students is a really big deal. Second one is that we want 50% of our Wednesday attendance in a small group. And so that's like, for us, that would be like around 150 kids in a growth group, which would be awesome. And obviously you need leaders to do that. And the last one is to get like, I think it's 150 students serving. Yeah. Somewhere in the church on a regular basis. So whether kids ministry, we have a food outreach thing, we have a cafe, parking lot, whatever it is, serving, on that. So those are like the goals, and those are like our OKRs. And so everything we do is going to be to advance those things. So like, okay, we're not like shooting in the dark.
Exactly.
We know what we're hitting. We know what we're trying to hit, because we know that if we hit 60 leaders, then we'll have enough leaders to lead small groups. And then out of small groups, the natural byproduct out of discipleship is serving. And so therefore we want serving, like kids serving. So kind of like pushes students forward in like their spiritual development. Yeah. And so, which overall hits our goal of what we want. So it's a big deal. Yeah. That's kind of what we want.
Yeah. And it's sweet. And like, specifically within my role, like my role doesn't exactly, because I'm more of a programming, I'm in the worship side of things. Right. So I'm not like small groups, like that OKR is not particularly like the one that I like pour into. But it's definitely, in my conversations with students and my conversations with kids in my band and in the production team and stuff like that, I'm pushing small groups to have that conversation. But a lot of what I am doing is pushing students into serving. So it's finding them service opportunities, be it on a Wednesday night, be it within any of our other family ministries, worship venues. So if that's like nursery, early childhood, preteens, that type of stuff. So that's kind of like everybody's role is pushing forward. You know what I mean? We're all in a canoe and we're all rowing the same direction. I'm rowing on the left, whereas the rest of the team might be rowing on the right, that type of thing. Yeah. But we're all going forward.
Yeah, we're working in tandem.
Yeah.
And like cool. And like having goals and stuff like that too, like that's how like I want to know, for me, like I need to know, maybe this is a little too personal on my end, like I need to know if I'm doing good.
Yeah. Oh,
like, no, and I'm sure that's a human thing, but like I really need to know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so like I'm constantly going like, hey, am I doing okay? Like, am I doing good? And having set goals, like, yeah, big vision's awesome. Big vision with no execution equals dilapidated ministry. Yeah. In my opinion, like that's great. You could do all those things, but like if you don't have a big vision with no execution, you got nothing. Mm-hmm. Or if you have a good execution on what you're always been doing with no big vision, like, if you're okay with keeping the same amount of kids that you have, great, that's awesome. But that's not me. That's not us. That's not our ministry. So we want to continue to reach more and more. And like OKRs for us allows us to identify what we're doing and how to start small, like how to work through the small things to get to the big things. Because next year we'll redo our OKRs of like, okay, here we are. Here's what we need to do. And then with ultimately trying to reach as many students as possible. Like, and do you notice too, Matt? Like, I don't know if you noticed this or not. All of our OKRs, it's not attendance based.
Yeah.
Like overall, like big number wise.
Yeah.
And that was on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind if we like, obviously I have a goal, right? I think our church probably runs like around 4,000 on this campus on a weekend. So technically, if you were to look like around at the 10% mark, right?
Yeah.
We should be running around 400. We're not there yet.
Mm-hmm.
We're on our way to it.
Yeah.
And I think that these OKRs are going to help us get to that point and help us move forward. But like, it's none of our Wednesday night is not reach 400 students. It's not on there. But I really do think that our OKRs, because it's going to help effective ministry happen, like make our service great, because our leaders are going to be there by having them join small groups, and then by serving, that will like get more students, and will reach more students by doing that, which will then in turn give us the numbers that we're hoping and praying for one day to kind of match where our church is at.
Yeah.
So it's rebuilding, dude.
Yeah.
It's rebuilding.
It's good stuff.
Awesome. So, and then a couple more things that I would love to like kind of go through. So like for you, Matt, like what's a couple things like, let's think worship wise, someone wants worship.
Yeah.
What are some of the goals that you're wanting to hit?
Yeah.
And then how are you reaching that?
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
So we want to be, my primary goal right now within worship is to have a completely student run service. So be that band, be that production, any service role, they can do anything. They can run front of house. They can be a service producer. They can operate lights. They can be the worship leader. They can be the music director. They can play drums. I don't care. They can do the whole thing. And that kind of comes back to a philosophy thing that we've talked about in the past, that peers lead peers better.
Yeah.
There is no trust gap to fill, because they see, oh, I know Michael. He's in my third period class. Or I went with Phoebe. I was watching Friends yesterday. So Phoebe. So I know Phoebe. She we're in PE together. She's in my cross country team, that type of thing. And she's like the one making this sound good. That's so cool. That type of thing. So that's what we're pushing for. I would say right now we're probably about 80% of the way there. All of our frontline, our guitar players, a few keyboard players, students, our backline, we've got a few drummers, but our primary backline of like bass and drums are like young adults, college young adult age individuals. And then the same thing back at production. So we've got a guy who runs front of house with us, who's on staff at CCV. And then we've got like kind of like a graphics director. But she's really there to kind of just make sure things go off smoothly. There's a student who runs all the graphics, which is awesome. And the same thing in the lighting position. There's a student who's doing lights. There's also a guy there just to make sure it's kind of like making sure it's going off, that type of thing. So we're about 80% of the way there. But the way we're kind of narrowing in on that target and coming closer and closer to it is inviting students to come along the ride with us, and inviting friends to invite friends to say, hey, if there's people who should be joining the team, if you know somebody who's singing and loves Jesus, why are they not doing this with us? That type of thing. And having it come from friends. We'll do like on stage announcements periodically, but that's not really like what draws students to like come and audition or ask how to be involved. It's really in the like conversations and in the relationships. And so that's kind of where we're taking the most ground with that. And on the other side, with the leaders, having the conversations with them. We just did this yesterday of recognizing that our roles as adults are not just as content operators and not as just worship leaders, but we're there to like mentor and coach and raise up these leaders so they can be the next leaders, so they can raise up their lower peers, that type of thing, for the rest of like, I don't know, 20, 30 years, like that type of thing. Like if we can do that and set the ball in motion, like the church, not just our church, but the church in general is going to have like worship leaders and directors and stuff like that for years, for decades, which is going to be so cool. And so that's been really big for us, is having those conversations with leaders saying, hey, like in a way we're kind of on borrowed time, but this is what our role looks like. We're to take those underneath our wings and kind of apprentice them up.
Yeah, totally. I love that. And it's working.
Yeah.
It's the best. I love seeing that. And the cool thing is like one of the guys who does lights, I like follow him on Instagram and stuff like that. He's stoked that he's training a student to do it. And he's like all in. It's the best. Um,
And it frees him up to do what he loves too. He loves photography. And so, like it's his passion. It's his, like one of his biggest passions in life. And so he'll bring his camera and
we get sweet pics.
Yeah, it's awesome. It works. It fills him up. It gives us great promo material. Like, it's not like he's like, oh, cool, thanks for the photos. Like, he's a great photographer. So we get great promo from it. A student gets filled up and encouraged and gets the opportunity to lead. Like, it just, man, it's the overflow. Like, it's so cool.
Yeah, it's really good. A couple of things too, like just kind of thinking through, like, you know, again, I wanted to try to be super practical, like walk it through our OKRs. What am I doing right now to reach, you know, 60? How do we get 60 leaders? Honestly, like this last like 3 weeks for me have been like, I'm so caffeinated up. My goal was to meet with all of our leaders, existing leaders, for coffee. One, I always ask 3 questions too when I meet with all of our leaders. How are you doing as a person? How are you doing as a leader here? And then what can I do to make you do better? And so, like, you know, trying to walk through all of those things with all of our leaders over coffee or lunch or whatever, has been really, really good. And so, and through that conversation is like, hey, who should be here? Who of your friends need to be here? So like, we're constantly recruiting. I've tapped out my circle of influence. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like, we're asking our leaders, like, who of your friends need to be serving here? Maybe your spouse needs to be serving here because you guys could serve together. Because we're gaining a whole bunch of like power couples, and it's freaking rad.
It's the best.
So that's like one. When I look at leaders, that's kind of like one of the biggest things that I'm doing. Small groups wise, like honestly, is we put all our eggs in a basket with small groups, and we hired someone. Like, if you can make that happen, like we're saying, this is such a big deal to us and we need someone to run it. And maybe you don't have the ability to hire someone, but like get someone who's super organized and passionate about small groups, and get them and let them just unleash them to organize it and like train people and make it happen. Because like we want to launch, if we want 50% of our students in a small group, you need someone who's going to run that. I can't do it. We're running our whole team and our whole ministry happening. And so, you know, to get someone in the right spot to lead that for you, if you are not the administrative type, I would highly recommend that you get someone, even if you can't hire anyone, get someone who is passionate about small groups and run it, so that they could carry out your vision for the small group.
Yeah. It's easy to think with that too. Like, oh, that sounds like a great idea, but I could never do that. It's as easy as literally just asking, because
don't say no for them.
Yeah. And the answer is one of 2 things. It's either, yeah, totally, or no, I don't think I can.
Yeah.
And okay, sweet. That eliminates that one person. Don't say they're no for them. And I feel like that social contract of like, oh, I don't want to ask. Your leaders are looking for more, and they're like, they want more. They want to be involved. They want to be in the weeds, that type of thing.
Totally.
Don't say they're no for them. Yeah.
Ask for sure. And then the last one for us is serving. Is honestly, I think it's more of a programming thing. We've been just highlighting serving, telling stories of students serving in kids ministry, highlighting stories of kids going to Zimbabwe or Mexico on house building trips and stuff like that. So we've done a really good thing, and we do a series on serving every January, which kind of picks us up for summer camp, but it also talks about serving in local and global. So that's like kind of some of the practical things that we're doing to actually achieve the things that we're going for. And man, they're just like it's just a good thing. Like I think a lot of, if you're a leader and you're leading a ministry, let's end with this.
Yeah.
You need to think big. You have to. But if you can't do it, like you can't execute it, like you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
And you're wasting your mind. And so like having these steps of like, you think big, but start small. Like if you don't have an actual list of like, you know, what weekly things are you doing to achieve your big goal? What monthly things, like kind of setting like benchmarkers in your thing. Like that's a really big deal. And another hack would be like, make sure that your goals are approved by your supervisor. Like honestly, like by the people above you, because if they could get excited about what you're doing, then they're more likely able to get behind you and help you achieve those things.
Yeah.
And so like our supervisor, he's all about this and he's on board with this, and it will do whatever he can to support us to make sure it is. Because last thing I want to do too is like have these goals and then pursue after these goals and my supervisors don't even care about them, or it's not passionate. They're not passionate about those things either. And then, well, what if I'm passionate about this and the church is, maybe you're at the wrong church. I don't know. Like, as I feel like our ministry is supposed to support our church as a whole.
Completely.
And going that way. So, you need to have the vision of your church in mind as well. And here's a couple other reasons, and we'll end with this. I got 3 things.
Okay. Matt. I've got a hack as well too. So whenever you
do your hack, and then I'll end with the 3 things.
So my one hack that I could offer, and this is because we are in budget season right now.
Dun, dun, dun.
That was Justin throwing up on the table. We are in budget season right now. So whenever you move from your 10,000 foot level to, okay, what are the practical things we're going to do? The biggest thing and best thing you can do is have your resource equip your vision. So if that's changing some line items in your budget to say, hey, like, we don't do this anymore because we're spending this money on small group material. So we're not going to buy 600 pizzas for a Wednesday night. We're going to find a cheaper way and a better way. And also pizza that says, I don't care about you. It doesn't, you know what I mean? We're going to find a better way to provide snacks, feed students, that type of thing, or just cut it all together because we're going to say, hey, we want that intentional time of meeting one another to be within small groups. We're going to pour all of that money into small groups, and make sure that if you're trying to raise up leaders and raise up volunteers and equip them and do that type of thing, make sure that the money you spend and you're investing backs that up.
Right. Put your money where your mouth is.
Exactly.
Basically, like, if you think that this is a vision and you want to go that way, then like, put your resources to that thing. Don't say this and then spend money in a different area. Just wait.
Completely.
Like, you're not going to move forward.
Right. And that makes it really easy for you then if you're gonna if you want to buy something and it doesn't line up with the things that you want to do and it doesn't advance your vision, don't buy it. Spend it somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
That's my hack.
Yeah, I think that's great. I love that. And I think, like, another hack before I go into these things, just like, honestly, and it's basically essentially what we've been talking about. Like, just write your goals down. Like, write it down. You should know where you want to be a year from now, and then break it down from month by month, and then even to that, like, week by week.
Yeah.
I could do this week to achieve this month. And then once I achieve this month, that's moving me towards this year. And so, like, if you could able to walk through some of those questions, man, it's going to be like huge. Like, you will see growth. Maybe not numerically, but you will see growth in your leadership.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see growth in your volunteer leadership. And then hopefully you'll see, like, numerical growth as well, like as a byproduct of those things. So, okay, as we wrap up, let me kind of, I wrote down some thoughts of, like, here's why we need to think big and start small. Okay. Cool. Just kind of wrap up everything is, when you think big and start small, like, it gives you more confidence to move forward. Because if you could think big all you want, and then you're going to get deflated at the end of the year if that's all you have is this big vision, you didn't reach it. Starting small allows you to give you more confidence in yourself as a leader, even to, like, move forward. Like, I always think of What About Bob, the movie. Have you ever seen that?
I don't think I have.
Gosh, man.
It's not the Truman Show, right?
No, not the Truman Show. Okay. It's What About Bob is starring Bill Murray, and he's like a hypochondriac kind of person, and he goes to therapy, and the guy just tells him baby steps, and he, like, physically takes baby steps everywhere he goes. Like, Bill, it's classic. It's a classic Bill Murray cinema. And so I just think, like, baby steps, that when you could focus on small things and get those things dialed in, it creates, like, instant wins and gives us a boost in, to move forward, to move on to bigger things that, like, for us, like, successful ministries are the way that they are because they're led by very dedicated and faithful people who constantly take next steps. Right. Mm-hmm. And so, like, when you know your next steps is, like, that's how things are moved forward. And a great way to get started to find out is by what problem everyone agrees needs to change, and then offer taking lead on that thing. Right. So, like, ask your leaders, what needs to change? And if majority say this one thing, you then, as the leader, become the champion of that one thing and change it, and you will see an instant gratification and result and morale boost within your ministry, right? So start small, even if it's like I could think back, Matt, like, remember we had to do chairs? Mm-hmm. We share a space. We don't have our own student space. And so our biggest things, like I did the math, like 25% of our leaders' time was moving chairs. And so, and they were tired. And so I was like, okay, everyone's complaining about this. Let's go. And I got it to where we don't have to do that anymore. And that was like a big like win right off the bat and moved us forward. Second thing, thinking big and starting small gets you focused and priority setting. So like, you know, kind of what you said, put your money where your mouth is too, like put your focus where your dream is, you know, like kind of move that way. You cannot have 7 key issues that you're focusing on. Like you're going to be very spread thin. So like, what are like 2 or 3 things that you need to be fixed, and then start with one and then go all in on that thing until it's what you need. So, you know, whether that's laser focusing on programming or small groups, everything, we know that everything else needs to be done, but we're focused on one thing and nailing that one thing to make it better. So when you get focused, you also set your priorities, and it's super helpful to move forward. And the last thing too, like thinking big and starting small gives you the ability to create steps in where you need to be, and like kind of, you know, be able to take the necessary things. Like starting small gets us ready for the next steps. That, you know, the same, what's a parable? If you're trusted with a little amount of money, and then you could be trusted with more in the same thing, like why would God give you something bigger if you're not even taking this necessary steps and taking care of what you have now and like moving it forward? So as leaders, like we could see the things that should and like how it should be, instead of just focusing on what's there now, but we cannot reach it until we know the process of how to get there.
Yep.
And so like just even like kind of creating the steps and to get those things, that starting small and allows us to like really allow quality control too, and like set the foundation of where we're going, and helps us take the next steps that we need to take to help move our organization forward. So that's kind of what I would end.
That's good.
My last thoughts on those things. So, man, that's it.
That's a good time.
I'm spent. I'm done. I'm freezing. So Matt, let's kind of sign off. And man, this is 10 episodes.
Yeah,
it's a big deal.
It is a good time.
It's a really big deal. I'm excited. So remind us, Matt, how can we get involved in the whole thing?
So 2 ways. Twitter, using the hashtag YMHacks, 140 characters or less. We're doing the challenge with the emojis. Yeah,
and follow us too. Yeah. We have a Other Student Ministry podcast Twitter, which is Other SM Podcast. And then I'm Justin Knowles 3 and Matthew _Ferrer. Yeah. FERRER.
Yeah.
And so like follow us, join the conversation. I add hashtag YMHacks every week, I feel.
This is true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Matt needs to step up his game.
I do.
One.
Most of my tweets, if you look through it, are going to be soccer tweets, and I don't apologize for that, but yeah.
Football.
Yeah.
I'm excited because real football season's starting, and it's the best.
It's stupid.
I'm so happy.
It's boring. Anyway, the other way is to join the conversation by reaching out via email. The email address is theotherstudentministrypodcast@gmail.com. Once again, that's the Other Student Ministry Podcast @gmail.com. Send in your questions. We will start the conversation rolling on our end in our 7-minute.
Send us crap. Send us stuff.
Send us crap.
Send us crap. I want to talk about it. Let's just hang out and talk, guys.
Yeah.
If you could see how I'm laying in my chair right now, it shows you my I want to just hang out.
I just want to talk to
Matt,
you.
describe my mood right now as I'm like, hey guys, come talk with me.
The best is he also just pulled out all of our.
Dang it! I'm sorry, guys.
We're doing. He is. Gosh, think of like when you were in college and you gave up on a paper and you're just like, I'm going to go out and eat pizza instead. This is Justin right now.
I'm leaning back, my hands on my head, looking Matt over my shoulder.
Yeah, he's serious about it.
Just talk with us, guys. Come on. We'd love just to have great conversations. And honestly, I know we say this every week, but we don't know everything. We're in this process too. We're learning. We're in the middle of like a rebrand and redoing stuff and relaunching things all the time. And so we want to be practical. We want to have hacks. We're learning in the process. And if it helps you, freaking great. That's awesome. If not, subscribe anyways and listen to us. You guys, it's a good one. We'll see you next time. Episode 11 coming your way.
See ya.
Man, 10 episodes. It's nuts. I believe in God the Father. Okay, bye.
Bye.